are live.
I think we're live.
Yay.
Did that work?
Not seeing it on the channel yet, though.
Well, there's a delay.
Oh, yeah. There it is.
Okay.
I'm going to put the link on social. Let's see if this works.
You did it.
Maybe.
Maybe.
We'll
We're waiting to see if
Maybe.
people come in the chat here.
Okay.
Meanwhile, our screen looks a little different that we're looking at, but I think it'll still work. So, Jojo, hi.
Oh, there are
Esteban,
people.
hi.
It seems to be working.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for your patience, guys. I don't know what happened.
Wow.
All of a sudden on this 10th episode, we were having technical issues and
Like a lot of
YouTube
them.
wasn't wanting to let us on and stuff. And okay, but you're there.
It
So
was
very
the
cool.
curse-
Hi,
the
Tim.
curse
Hi,
of the
Tom. Hi,
witch.
Kenzie. Hi, Alan. Hi, Ray. Okay. So I think so. You guys are seeing us, it looks like, and Ted is there. We're here.
Yeah. So I think
Okay. Yay.
We made
So
it.
we ended up, Carmel came up
Hi,
with an
Aaron.
entirely different way to do this because there was a lot of issues. So there's like 5 different issues, but we apologize, but we're here. So let's go ahead and get started.
Oh my gosh. I'm like trying to calm down now.
Right.
You did it.
Okay.
All right. Well, hello to everybody in the chat. This is the season finale of our weekly live show here with Ted Doherty. 10 weeks that we've been doing this. So we do this show for everybody in the live chat there. Feel free to jump in tonight. And tonight will actually be even maybe a little more participatory, which we'll get to in a little bit here with Ted. But before that, we're going to go ahead and start the audio portion here. So we're going to give our podcast intro because this will also show up as an audio podcast as well. So with that being said, I'm going to jump into the intro here and we will begin this show. Welcome to Parks and Cons, the companion podcast, the parksandcons.com website and YouTube channel, where we discuss cons, theme parks, collecting, and other fun stuff. It's May 28th, 2020. I'm your host, Sean. I'm here with Carmel.
Hi there.
And Ted.
Hello.
Parks and Cons, your on-the-spot podcast where we take you to the heart of the action, best conventions and themed entertainment events around. Today, we are here for our season finale of what has been 10 weeks of absolute fun. So right off the top, and we'll reminisce some stuff, but Ted, huge thanks to you for everything and prepping all the way. And before we jump into, really, we've got kind of a scripted out thing of a lot of things we want to talk about as we go through tonight. In case anybody's tuning in, which would be a surprise, but for the very last episode, Ted, would you mind introducing yourself just so everybody in the chat and listening audio knows who you are?
Sure. My name is Ted Doherty. I'm a writer and producer and director for seasonal entertainment attractions and experiences. Worked with all kinds of different companies and different installations, but my roots are at Knott's Scary Farm. I worked there several years as one of the monsters. I wrote a book on the history of Knott's Scary Farm and have worked with them on a creative level. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be here once again for our finale.
Thank you so much. And, a little bit of a behind the scenes there is because one of the things, Ted, over the years, we've loved working with you on things. We do things, whether it's Midsummer Scream or this stuff, but Ted is really big on prepping and I'm really big on prepping, like everything I do with work or anything. It's like, I don't like to just kind of jump in. So we've met this week before the show, then we meet every week, a half hour before the show starts. And every week things just start up fine. And this week, everything just crashed on like all sorts of different 4 or 5 levels. So yeah, we are saying it's the curse of the Green Witch there. And we are ready to go though with that though. So if we sound any of us a little thrown off to start here, that's why, because we were literally talking about just rescheduling because it just was not happening. But Carmel figured out a workaround. So thank you, Carmel, for that.
Sure.
Hooray for Carmel.
Before we go too deep into the show, we did want to say if you have missed any of the episodes this time, Carmel has put together a playlist of all of Ted's episodes. So when this ends, we'll have a season 1 playlist there with, I think it'll be somewhere between 15 and 17 hours of haunt talk that we have provided over the last 10 weeks. It's crazy to think that for 10 straight weeks, this is what we've done every Thursday night. And it's crazy to think when the whole idea of it started and all those things of kind of where it took us and kind of that we're here. I know for me, it's always hard just in general. I have a big, I have trouble committing to things like that are at a specific time on a specific day. So it's crazy to me to think like we made it happen for 10 weeks. And obviously it was a different type of 10 weeks with a lot of things going on in the world and stuff, but it's been a lot of fun. We want to thank everybody in the chat for gathering, not just tonight, but all of the weeks over the time, everybody that's listened on audio, everybody that has said very kind things on any of the social media platforms and helped share it. We greatly, greatly appreciate all the support. And I know we've all talked off the air that it's been one of the highlights is just having these kind people that it's like, okay, every Thursday night we've been able to be surrounded by a bunch of really nice people that are excited to talk about Halloween stuff, which is what we're excited to talk about as well. So with that being said, Ted, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about, you had a couple things you want to talk about off the top here before we get into a few things?
Yeah, I think we were kind of leading into this finale. We knew that it wasn't going to last forever. We didn't want it to last as long as it did. We were hoping that things would be opening up a little sooner. I don't think anybody thought this whole thing was going to spin so far out of control. And so, but here we are. And so as a sort of, we wanted to leave this with a fun, uplifting kind of almost celebration kind of finale. And so as a sort of thank you to those who have tuned in with us live each week, we have some prize opportunities for you. I do apologize for anybody who's listening to this on the podcast a little bit later or catching a rebroadcast of this sometime in the future. This is, again, as a thank you, especially to those folks that are with us. And it has kind of felt like it's almost a comforting thing, a weird kind of virtual comfort of having all of these people know that, we know that they're with us and we're with them. And it's just been a fun thing. So a couple quick things. These prizes are like from my personal collection. And so they will be sent from me. So if you win, you could just shoot me like a message on Instagram. If you're not following me, it's this Ultimate Haunt, and Carmel or Sean will give me the name of the folks that win, and we'll send the stuff off.
Which, by the way, I'm a little irked because I'm guessing we can't participate, but I'm guessing whatever you're giving away are stuff that we would have loved to have. So I'm a little torn on the whole giveaway thing, but best of luck to all of you in the chat, but know that we're jealous, or I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Hold on. You hold on. You wait. So, and then if any folks that are participating have any of these items that I'm giving away, don't participate. Let somebody else win it. So that's that. And so throughout this show, we're going to have a couple of trivia questions that we'll be throwing out, and you'll have the opportunity to win. So am I doing the first one right now?
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump and do the first one before we get into the rest.
So those of you in the chat, or go ahead, Ted, were you going to?
No, yeah. So, well, go ahead for those, address the folks there. Yes.
I was just going to say, so it's basically going to be whoever gives the correct answer first. We'll get the giveaway that Ted has, the prize that Ted has. And if there's any question about the answer, we've decided that Ted's going to be the one who has to decide if it's close enough as an answer. So be quick on your keyboards.
Be quick on your keyboards. Okay, so listen, over the last 10 weeks, we've talked a lot about my book, as well as the 40th anniversary at the Haunt Museum. We've talked a few about those things. So the first prize here, I have it all set up, ready to go. The first prize, and this is just a little kind of a packet, but so the first part of this first prize is an official bookmark that I had that went
Mm.
out with all of my books. This was a free thing that every person who would usually have the book signed or whatever at Knott's, if I was personally there, I typically would include this bookmark, or I would include it for any folks who bought the book like through like Amazon or something like that. And so we have that, but I also will have this. This is one of the trading cards from the 40th anniversary. This particular one is of the Green Witch. So you can't just turn around and sell it. You shouldn't turn around and sell it on eBay, but if you want to, whatever. And then the next card is, well, it says the Cat Man, but it's actually my former boss, Craig Harold, who I spoke about in different episodes about how inspirational and guiding he was as a supervisor for me, as well as a lot of monsters, basically kind of growing up at Not Scary Farm. But he was a character in the trenches as we were for several years, and this is his character. And so I think that was always something that really spoke to us as monsters, knowing that Craig Harold was actually in the trenches with us at some point. He knew how crazy of a job it really was on the streets. And then the last part of this little packet is a fun Not Scary Farm Halloween Haunt sticker, a bumper sticker that says the largest and the scariest in the world. Okay, so the person who is first to answer this trivia question in our live chat and answers it correctly, of course, gets this prize sent over to them. And so I've mentioned it before. I've mentioned it at the top of the show. I've talked over these last 10 episodes about working at Knott's Scary Farm in the past. The question is, what was my character name when I worked in Ghost Town, and what type of monster was he, and where did he most like to work inside Ghost Town?
All right.
Wow, so three-part question.
Three-part question. I will repeat it. What was my character name when I worked in Ghost Town? What type of monster was he? And where did he most like to work inside Ghost Town?
And they have the little bit of delay, so it may take a few seconds here.
That's fine. Yeah.
But this is cool stuff.
So let's see, maybe while they answer, we go over a few comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
there's a lot of comments.
Lots of hellos and stuff. And so hello.
Yeah, and hello to everybody in the live chat.
Yeah, and then let's see. AJ said that it's been a great season. Jojo said it's been so very fun. I look forward to this, and thank you all three for doing this for us weekly. I personally appreciate what you all have done. Handel said, really appreciate all of you, both hosts and fellow viewers. Aaron's, who I think said earlier he's coming from from Minneapolis, said, I'm sad I just found this live stream, the last episode of the season. Let's see, Handel asked, Ted lost the corn stash. So
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Let's see. Handel said he's not going to know what to do next week. Tim said it's definitely been a highlight of his time stuck at home. Thank you. And then Handel asked Ted, was the gun always there behind you on the wall?
Yeah. So this gun right there is it's my Red Ryder BB gun.
Perfect.
Okay, so
and then I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a silver bullet here too. That's part of it too. I have a couple silver bullets there. Yes.
That's great.
Nice.
So it looks like the first to ring in, and we'll go to you to see if this works, because we have the BV Hunter. This is Rage, the werewolf. He's scared mostly on Main Street.
I would accept that.
Okay. So we will go with the BV Hunter as the first winner tonight.
Okay, so that person needs to message me on Instagram, their mailing address, at Ultimate Haunt, and just make sure that you mention that you are the first prize winner.
And Aaron says you'll shoot your eye out.
I know. Especially, well, maybe these glasses will protect me.
All right, so we are going to go the next segment of the show. We wanted to kind of just take a quick little stroll through memory lane of these episodes that we've done, and just talk a little bit about a few things from them. And I don't know, maybe there's a little behind the scenes there or something, because this all began, and I know we talked about it, especially in the first episode, but really, Ted, you wanted to do something. I mean, I think that's literally what you had texted me, is you wanted to do something that helped people, something to help kind of, entertain. You're talking about doing something maybe on Facebook Live or different things. And we literally, like the days before that, had been talking on our walks with our dog of like, okay, so what can we do? And we wanted to do something with like a live show, and we wanted to do something maybe more with interviews, which some of those things have evolved in different ways. And it was like perfect timing when you reached out with that idea. So on our end, we were really excited, because once you said that you were looking for something to do, it's like all of these different pieces fell into place, because it's like, okay, this is somebody reliable, somebody who likes to prep, somebody who has really interesting stories. We have lots of stuff to talk about. We already like talking to you, so it made it a really easy thing for us to want to do this with you before we even got to episode 1.
I mean, whenever we do get together on the, now it's been such a long time, but at dinner or anything, it always feels like there's never enough time to finish a conversation, because it always feels like we're constantly talking about new stuff or whatever. So it totally worked and was comfortable to try this with you.
And so you guys were the first that just came to mind, simply because, again, I know we've mentioned it in the past episodes, but just as already a fan of Parks and Cons and becoming friends and all that stuff too, is like, okay. And it was more of just like, because early on, you saw all these people trying to do different things, of whether or not it was, performing music live, in their living room, or reading. I know, like, one idea was I was going to read excerpts from my book and stuff like that, just as a way to get people to kind of just sort of zone out and just think about something different. But I do know that I am a fan, and I don't really know why, but I mean, I've always been attracted to your guys's top ranking lists, even though Carmel's is never in any particular order. And so, and that's okay. But I always love it. And I always, whether or not it's like some convention that, like, I've never even heard of, but it's still like, oh, but you guys get me excited about it, especially if there's enough meat on the bones at these conventions to whereas you can rank things and talk about them or whatever. And along the way, I have learned a lot about these various conventions and stuff. And of course, even when it comes to the different events and everything. And so I thought, well, geez, I think that would be a fun thing to do. And I remember when we were first talking about it, we're like, okay, well, we got to do like the top Not Scary Farm mazes.
Yeah.
And we kind of like said, all right, well, let's plan like a couple episodes, like, and then, and then we kind of like didn't think more beyond like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, we're like, oh, we better start thinking about some more.
Yeah. And that's the thing. There was always kind of ideas on the periphery. And there's things, I mean, we've talked about to do if we do a season 2, even if it was in a different format or things like that. There's a lot of ideas of things that would be cool to record that we're kind of keeping in the chest for now. But I think that's where we started, was like, well, we know we'll do these mazes, and then, it makes sense to do some of these other ones, but it needed something to kind of tie it all together. And so we started off in the first episode, then we did focus in on the mazes, and that being obviously doing our, whatever it was, top 5 there. I know for myself, it was Trick or Treat, which, still stands out as an all-time kind of Halloween classic for me. And for you, Ted?
I chose, I went deep, way deep dive on it. And I chose Bates Motel. But and I said it at the time, and I do think it's worth saying again, and it's the same type of thing that you're kind of talking about regarding trick or treat. Trick or treat is going to stick with you for a long time. It's no longer there, but it will continue to stick with a lot of people that adored that maze. And for something like Bates Motel to be sticking with me, you know, freaking decades later is kind of a testament to, again, I know I could be looking back at it with the rose tinted goggles and stuff, but it was classic haunted house elements that I think it's one of those one of those handful of mazes that if they wanted to present something like it right now, they could, and it would be extremely effective.
Yeah. And that really, I mean, it kind of led to all of these other episodes really made sense for the first few as we did. Episode 2, I think we figured ended up being way too compact, or it was too much to fit into one episode. We did our top shows and top scare zones and had a lot to go there. And then we went to top others and top memories from there. And so those first 4 kind of all fit in pretty well there. For top shows, scare zones, is there anything that stands out to you about that one, Ted?
Well, I think, my top show was specifically the old witch hangings. And again, thinking back that they only were there for about like 8-9 seasons, it's like, that's pretty incredible. But then you fast forward a few weeks later, and then we're doing our walk in the park, and we're talking about some of the very first hangings and reading excerpts from those scripts that ever took place at Not Scary Farm that set the stage for those witch hangings.
Definitely. And in the, we had to define the others category. And I feel like as we got to memories, that was, where we were kind of like, well, where do we go from there? We knew we had talked about maybe doing something with origins, and there's a lot of demand for that. And obviously you being, having so much in your head for that was the next direction we went. So we went with an episode called Origins, 7 Things You May Have Missed. And you did all the prep for that one. And that was one of the things in kind of the back half of the episodes. A lot of them are ones that you did really all of the prep for, because it wasn't us both going, like our top 5s or things like that. It was like you really had to put together presentations there. And so you picking those 7, was there any, I mean, with the 7 that you picked, what was kind of stuck out to you to really go in that direction with those ones that you shared there?
What I kind of did was I just went through the attraction sort of in my imagination in a linear way, right, and just tried to pick out the different things that I thought would stuck out for me that I enjoyed. But I'm like, I bet people might have caught some of this, but I'm not sure everybody would have caught all of it. And so I thought that was a kind of a fun thing to try and do. And again, the purpose for that was to really create more of, I don't want to say interest, but more of like being more cognizant of when the next time you go through the attraction, these are things that you could be kind of watching out for. But in addition to those things, also look at everything else that's going on in there and know that they have their own sort of little story and serious reason as to why they are there.
Definitely. And I think it was around that time that we started talking about the idea of the walk in the park stuff, because I think we had started doing that with Jonathan Green and Eric Linksweiler, and we had done our own on Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland, and all of a sudden it like hit as we were talking with you of like, that could really make sense. But we had an episode we wanted to do before we got into the walk in the park, which was one we talked about literally, I think the very first time we talked about anything was Santa Clarita and the home haunt hop. And that was something that kind of stuck out to all of us. That ended up being our episode number 6. It was a really memorable part of Halloween season for all of us as we met out at the farm. Tim Fowler's place, and he had everything kind of organized. And we that was to me a really fun episode of kind of just talking about what you remembered from your side of things, because we obviously did an episode on that night, but kind of seeing what stuck with you, what was memorable, what was interesting about it, because it was very different for you, because obviously you're working all through the haunt season, and your ability to go out and do something like that isn't as readily available as it is for us during that time of year.
Yeah. Well, let's face it. It was a fun night. It was a fun adventure.
Yeah.
But we'd been talking about, full disclosure, we've been talking about trying to, I've been wanting to get on some sort of episode as you guys were recording it, like real time at some location. I know we were really close somewhere, either Knott's or somewhere, and it just didn't happen. I think we got disconnected and it got late or whatever. But and then I've seen you guys record. I'll look over and you guys are off, sitting on a bench or on the
on
against
the
the wall on the ground
Right.
of at a convention or whatever. And so I've seen it in action. But this was an adventure that we truly shared all night long, because if with Knott's and stuff, I'm usually getting pulled in different directions and have to check in on whatever it is. And then it's okay, but this was something that we were able to share together along with Rick West and everybody. And it was a lot of fun. And it was worth talking about it. And I thought it was worth it for you guys to be able to revisit it. Even though, like you said, you did talk about it before, but this was an opportunity to kind of do a little bit more elaboration on it and share some additional thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, it was nice that we didn't have to worry about spoilers at that point in time, or at this point
That's
in time.
true.
Whereas back when we recorded it that night, it was, some haunts were still going on, and I don't remember how quickly we actually posted it and stuff, but we were still trying to not spoil too much. But in this environment at this time, it seemed fine to just fully discuss them, which was nice, because we don't always revisit things after we finished talking about it. And I think one of the times that we came really close and were supposed to record was at Midsummer last year. Was one time we had recorded the podcast panel with John Cook and stuff, but then I think we had talked about very seriously about the three of us sitting down and recording kind of our experiences from Midsummer, but then we all got too busy and never got around to it.
That's right. I think I wanted to talk about because we've now for the two past seasons, we battled through Hall of Shadows.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that we wanted to kind of talk about, because for the most part, we shared in those experiences together.
Yep.
And so next year.
Yeah, definitely. And then episodes 7, 8, and 9, which brings us to tonight. Those were, I think, to me, they were the most fun for me to listen into. I think for the viewers in general, it was the most fun, because it was basically you in, teacher mode, as you as the professor of haunt, with your and all of a sudden at that point, that was your idea to bring the pictures into it, which added so much more to it and was awesome, because the Walk in the Park series, if nobody's listened on the podcast, but the idea is we just pick a spot on the map of some location and we kind of make our way through a land. And ideally what we've done is, having someone like Eric Linksweiler again, or Jonathan Green, or in the case of doing a Scary Farm version with you, is kind of visualizing walking around. But you took it a step further. If for those that were watching the video version, you actually gave us visuals as you walked around. And I know that was a lot of work putting those episodes together, because basically, you really produced all of those, because you were the one putting together the pictures, deciding the narrative flow, the pace, digging up the history, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, listen, though, it was fun to do, for sure. It takes a little work, but I know a lot of this stuff, kind of the back of my hand. So it's not too much. It was more stressful making sure I didn't screw something up for the visuals, to be able to kind of keep that story going. But just as a small little recap, and again, this is all for, if somebody's tuning into this episode for the first time, you're starting to hear now what these other past episodes were. But that first walk through the park, we talked about Chuck Burns, who was the voice of Knott's Berry Farm, who recently passed away, and he did so much more for Knott's. But we also talked about like just the super old 70s of Knott's Scary Farm and like the main gate area and some of the side shows and the Calico Saloon. And then the other episodes, we went over to Schoolhouse Road and to Boot Hill and learned a little bit about what the heck the Count Dracula Society was, things like that. And then of course the final, those first couple of hangings. And then this last week, we were talking more about the birdcage and some more sideshows and the startling Pekins. And so here we are. So we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, and in doing those, I mean, it obviously, and we've talked about this, and it's kind of obvious that there's a lot of other areas to mine there. I mean, what you presented was really in depth, and there's a lot of layers to Knott's history, to Haunt history, Scary Farm history, and a lot of other parts of the park too. So we'll see where that takes us in the future as well with any of those types of things.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm monitoring the chat, so if this came up already, I apologize. But I was going to say it was also kind of interesting that you kept us in such an early era of Haunt, when it's like there was so much to uncover and we didn't even cover everything from like the 70s, and there's so much since then. So like it seems like we could be having that or you could be teaching those classes for like an indefinite amount of time if that were, something you wanted to do, because it's insane to me how much information was there and we like really just barely cracked the surface, it seems like.
Yeah, isn't that it's fascinating to me that there is so much history. And so that's what it's really, we I joke a little bit about it as far as like the episode we're talking about. I know we referenced a little bit the museum in Ghost Town that's at Knott's Berry Farm all the time. But I mean, you really would think that there's I believe that there's a huge opportunity there for America's first theme park, really, to have a museum and appreciate and honor its heritage. Because I mean, we've had so much content, and that's just not Scary Farm. Yeah. Something that only takes place, now a month. But when it started for so long, it was just a few days, but look at how much rich history that it actually has. And so I think it's worth celebrating that history and learning about it. And so, that's why it's something that I feel passionately about in sharing it. So it's been a wonderful opportunity to be able to share it with people.
Yeah, that was really awesome. Hendel said what, I think we were thinking too, just love the 70s focus too. It was really a really neat kind of a mindset to get into and focus on those times. Yeah. And so then that brings us up to episode 10, which is we wanted to look back a little bit at some of the things that we've done and kind of take in a little bit, because for us, this was all a very big change. As anybody that follows along with us knows, I mean, we don't do generally live shows. We do much prefer just recording with our handheld recorder, sitting, on a bench in Ghost Town or whatever on the run. And so this was very different for all of us. And we wanted to kind of take a few minutes to kind of take all that in and just kind of go back through all that. But before we get into the next thing that you have before we get into the next thing you have for us, let's get into the next thing that you have for us. But you have another trivia question, I believe.
I do have another trivia question. And so I'm hoping that our live viewers are ready to roll. They got their thinking caps on. So okay, now for the go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think some people have joined in since the first time. So depending on, so just to catch everyone up, if you have just joined us or joining us late, Ted's doing a trivia question. And so the answer, you're going to just type it as quickly as possible into your into the chat. And if there's any questions about the validity of the answers, Ted's going to be the judge on that and have a decision to make. So once he asks your question, type as quickly as possible. And then there is a delay from what we're talking to what you're hearing. And so during the, while we're waiting for you all to catch up with the answers, we'll catch up on some comments.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right. So over the last 10 weeks, I know that the angles haven't always been the best, or the lighting or whatever, but I'm a big fan of all of the old Cool Not Scary Farm shirts, especially from like the vintage logos from the 80s. Today I'm wearing my Origins shirt. But my good friend Eric Linksweiler, who has done Walk in the Park with you guys, he's not only a Knott's Berry Farm historian, a dear friend, but he's a graphic designer and does a lot of freelance work for Knott's. And so this next little group of prizes that I'm getting ready here. So he designed this fantastic image sticker pack for Knott's Berry Farm. Hopefully you guys can kind of see that. It features many of those old logos. And so we're giving this away, okay, as part of the prize. We're also giving another Green Witch card, trading card away for that was given out. Do you remember how you guys got these? Like, remember how they were handing these out? You could buy this at the time, but you could also, like, people were just handing them out too. Like, I think maybe the Tricksters or somebody like that too, right?
That's not how. Yeah, I just thought about buying them, and I don't know.
I don't know. But here's an extra one for somebody that's going to win this. And then you also have imitated but never duplicated a bumper sticker for Knott's. And I don't know, it's probably coming up backwards here, but at least perfect. You guys could kind of, oh, it's good. Okay.
Yeah.
So the winner will get these packets, these stickers right here. So the first person on our live chat who answers the following question will win this sticker pack. So here we go. So we just talked a little bit about it, just a little bit before. The first person to get this correctly, name 3 of the 7 things I mentioned that you might have missed in Origins, the Curse of Calico. 3 of the 7 things I mentioned that you might have missed in Origins, the Curse of Calico.
Cool.
So you would have had to have either listened to the podcast of that episode or have watched the video to know what those 7 things are, but they were a lot of fun to discuss.
So while we've got a little bit of a delay there with the YouTube live, let's go back to the comments for a few of them there.
So earlier on, Hendel commented that they're going to need a special episode when the announcement comes out about Haunt 2020, either way, either to celebrate or mourn together.
Okay.
So yeah, let's see. Aaron had commented that the hanging scripts from 1976 and 77 were amazing, if not corny. Let's see. There's some other conversations going. Let me see. Tim said that he's working on Dracula's hands. I don't know if that's for his haunt or if he's joking about something there. Aaron commented, I just wish there were disco zombies in the 70s. Ray commented that he thinks Knott should bring back one throwback maze a year. It could be updated for today's audience.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it's so funny you said that because I was thinking about something like that, and I thought that would be really cool. As you've talked about some of the things from the past, like it'd be cool to see a new take on some of these.
I agree.
Totally. Okay. Michael Hernandez commented, these podcast sessions would be great prior to each haunt season. I appreciate the ability to be more
cognizant
prior to my visit to Knott's Scary Farm.
That's cool.
So that makes
cool.
sense. That actually would be cool. So I'm sure you have nothing else going on, Ted. You can just give these classes during that season. And Handel commented that even those of us that are old, quote unquote, mostly only have memories of haunt to the 80s. So yeah, talking about the 70s was cool. Alan said, you shared the foundation of the event. Everything since then has built on those early days. And then Aaron, I think, commented, I think we were talking about how you have the final say on the answers. he said that, and if you argue with Ted, he has his Red Ryder BB gun there. So
That's
I
right
don't
there.
think people
Yes.
will be arguing. The BB Hunter commented, so happy Eric brought back a lot of the old retro haunt shirts for 2018.
So much.
Which we totally agree with.
Totally.
Those are so much better shirts than what some of the things in the past. And Kenzie chimed in with, I'm happy to be one of the shirt designers from last year. And we loved your shirts.
Yeah, I was just wearing your shirt the other day, Kenzie. It's awesome.
Yeah, just incredible.
Then Handel, I think, was talking about how you got the card. He said that you had to ask Jeff. I assume that's Tucker. That he had a bag of them. So I don't think that's how we got it, because we didn't know Jeff back then. But Jojo complimented Kenny that her artwork was amazing. And then I think we are into some answers.
So Tim Fowler came in first, and then Martian Girl 88 was right after.
But Tim said.
So Tim had Haunted Shack chair, exit through the outhouse, and Seymour as the three things he listed. And then Martian Girl had Dorsey, the male dog, Seymour skeleton, Witch, Sarah Marshall in the screens. So Tim was first.
But what do you think, Ted?
Tim, you basically combined.
Split up two, or one of them.
Yeah. What was Tim's again? What was his answer?
The Haunted Shack chair, exit through the outhouse, and Seymour. So I think the debate is that the Haunted Shack chair and Seymour were kind of
the same thing.
Of the seven.
Tim, we can have words when I can finally see you face to face, but we're going to give it to the second runner up.
To Martian Girl 88.
Because those are three distinct
Tim said, I know. All right. Congratulations, Martian Girl 88. Please message Ultimate Haunt on Instagram with your address.
Yes. And just make a note that you won the second prize. And you know what, Tim, what I will do for you, if everything works out and I can actually get out to Santa Clarita for some home haunting, I will work at least a 2-minute shift as Dracula's hands.
There we go. There we go. That's great. Okay, so
and then the BB Hunter commented that they brought back a bunch of old past mazes for the 25th anniversary maze that he remembers. That it was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was way cool. Yeah. So for anybody that didn't experience it back in 1997 for the 25th anniversary, they re-released a bunch of the retro artwork from the shirts and stuff like that, but it was kind of updated. And then they had a 25th anniversary maze, and they had scenes from and so it was broken up in different scenes. And so they had like Jack the Ripper, Uncle Ernie's, Bates Motel, Alien, something, I can't remember all of them, but it was a fun tribute, and you got a little bit of a taste on what some of the earlier mazes were like. But it was kind of what you guys were saying a little bit. It was kind of a new take on some of that, because at the time, Todd Fox, who designed it, he didn't have access to all the old mazes before he started working there to see what specifically to design.
And it's weird because that was our first year going, so we had no clue that there was any element of any of that. Really, it was just a brand new experience for us at that time.
Right.
Let's see. Martian Girl has since said, I never went anything ever. These podcasts have been the highlight of the Thursdays. So
cool. Congrats again.
Yes, so congratulations.
Then Ted, something from there, you came across some interesting kind of Halloween type trivia separate from this trivia that you've created as well.
Yes, so this is a lengthy press release portion. I'll breeze through it as quick as I can. From 1977. And so there was a lot of things that we've learned about over the last 10 weeks as far as what sort of the gags that Knott's would put together, or some of their marketing ideas or whatever to get people in the spirit of Halloween. So I am going to read this, and all of us together. I know there's a delay, but we could at least discuss some of these. So I'm going to dive right into it. Ready?
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. So test your haunt quotient, or just how scary are you? Now that Halloween is almost upon us again, how's your HQ or haunt quotient? How much do you know about things that go bump in the night, especially those that really come into their own every October 31st? Here are 10 eerie queries. Answers and rating scale are below. And if you peek, horrible things may happen to you. Remember, even though doctors don't, wolfmen do make house calls. So number one, so you know what a witch is? Big deal. How do you address a male witch?
Are we supposed to say or no?
Yeah.
Or we just...
Do you have an answer?
Are we letting the chat catch up?
Oh
or-
yeah, that's true. Well,
We could let let you guys answer a couple, and then maybe the last couple we can let the folks catch up.
Yeah, because these aren't for
do you-
prizes or anything. They're just
yeah,
for-
this
Right.
part's not right. Isn't it a warlock?
The answer is actually with great respect. That's how. But also, try
Okay.
calling him a warlock. Witches and warlocks were the original marathon dancers. One way they loved to dance was widdershins. What in the world or out of it is widdershins?
I have no clue.
But
Okay,
Handel
so
and
let's let-
Adam got warlock correct in the
Yeah.
last question. So
Okay, good. Well, why don't we let the folks catch up on this one, because this is one that I did not know either.
Okay.
Do you think we have enough time for them to catch up yet? Anybody?
We
Okay.
should be. I don't think
Okay.
anybody has it. Want to say it again one more time?
Yes, witches and warlocks were the original marathon dancers. One way they loved to dance was widdershins. What in the world or out of it is widdershins?
I think Handel's answering backwards, so they like to dance backwards, I think is what he's saying.
The answer is counterclockwise. That's
Okay.
dumb, you say. Try telling that to the next witches' revel you stumbled into, or on a high windswept hill in October. Counterclockwise.
Okay.
Okay, this next one is specifically for Sean and Carmel. You ready?
Okay.
Uh-huh.
You can do it. Come on, Carmel.
All right.
Okay. Lions come in prides, sheep in flocks. What do you call a bundle of witches?
Do you know?
No,
A coven?
I guess.
Correct. A coven. They were very precisely organized too. 12 witches were just a dozen old friends who kept strange hours, but 13 witches were a coven.
Oh.
I did not know that there was a certain number.
Yes. Like the Lone Ranger had Tonto, or Mandrake had Lothar. Every witch had a sidekick too. What were they called?
For the chat, for us,
For you.
a sidekick.
What's a witch's sidekick?
I was gonna say an apprentice, but
I think in Charmed, the kind of psychic were like little animals that from time to time, but it was more in the early seasons, and they refer to them as like a familiar or something. But I don't know that those counted
Carmel,
as. Yes.
Be very proud of yourself. You got it correct.
Yay!
A familiar. But if
There
you
you
try
go.
to get too familiar with one of them, they just might scratch your eyes out. See below. So this next one is for you. What did your standard 13th century familiar look like?
A cat.
It had
I don't
4 legs and fur, and it spent more time spitting than purring. A cat, of course.
that's why we have our little black cat, Mia Wallace.
All right, so this is for everybody, so we could let you guys guess as the chat tries to catch up. And by the way, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but you guys are absolutely sitting in the dark.
I just wrote Sean a note. Should we turn on the
Yeah, I'll
light?
do that.
Because
Yes, because
normally-
I can only see the light basically. Like it's like you guys are sitting candlelight with the
this
little
is
red
also a
light.
result. Yeah, this is also the result of the change of way we had to log in, because
There you
on
are.
this
Hello.
screen it's the setup for the dark or whatever, so it's like not lighting us the same way as it normally does.
Just
But
trying to
that
be spooky. It's dark.
I thought it looked like you guys were just sitting around. The only light was like almost like the little red
microphone.
light from your microphone there or whatever. Okay, so this is for everybody. What do Halloween and a family reunion have in common? What do Halloween and a family reunion have in common?
Should we let the chat go?
We could let the chat go we'll let it catch up in just a little bit. I'll repeat it one more time. What do Halloween and a family reunion have in common? Are we
I
ready?
know my answer.
Well, what is it?
Horror. It was literally the first word that came to mind when you said.
okay, we might have family listen at some point. I don't know if that'll go over well.
Not my family. I love them. The answer, does anybody in the chat have any guesses?
So Grimwood Hollow says blood. Kenzie
No.
Crow said tricks and treats.
No.
Aaron said they're both scary.
And
No.
And AJ putting on false faces.
They
Riley
have.
said they can both happen at Scary Farm.
Oh, well, that's true. But the actual answer is, in the old days, people believed that every October 31st, the souls of all those who had died in the past 12 months were given a few hours pass to return to their own hearthside and savor the sights and sounds and smells of home. Kind of sweet, huh?
Yeah, that is.
All
I was
right,
thinking,
we're going.
yeah, maybe the death thing and reunion with spirits or something. But
When
wasn't
Knott's
sure.
is open, I take my mom to Knott's once a week, so I like seeing my mom. It's just when you're talking about a big reunion of people that you don't see for years at a time, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
That was funny. All right, this one is for you guys, so we'll move it along a little bit. If you went out to find a mandrake root for a serious Halloween ritual, what would be a good precaution to take? Are you guys Harry Potter fans?
The movies we've seen, but we didn't read the books.
But do you remember seeing the mandrake root?
I
Vaguely,
remember it
I
being
do.
brought up.
You actually see them, I think, in the queue for the ride for Forbidden Journey.
Mm.
I'll just give you the
Precaution.
answer. I'll give you the answer.
Okay.
It says, stop up your ears. The mandrake's roots looked enough like a human being that our ancestors were convinced that you could hear them shriek.
Oh, that's cool.
Fun
I
fact.
wouldn't have gotten that.
Okay, we'll move on a little bit. Went on. Okay, I'll move on a little bit.
Kenzie
How do
did
you
get
get-
that right. She said
Yeah,
screaming.
Kenzie had it.
There you go, Kenzie. All right. So how do you get from Pennsylvania to Transylvania, and why on earth would you want to? I'm going to give you this one.
Say it again.
Well, go ahead, Sean. You
No,
look
no,
like
go
you have
ahead.
a...
No, I didn't. I was going to ask you to repeat it, but no, go ahead.
How do you get from Pennsylvania to Transylvania, and why on earth would you want to? And the answer is go due east about 4,500 miles and turn left. A few miles after the freeway peters out, you'll notice that there aren't any mirrors in the restaurant washrooms, and it looks like the local men's shops have been running a special on capes. You're in Transylvania, province of Romania, and the original home of Vlad the Impaler, the inspiration for Count Dracula. And it goes on to say, Knott's Berry Farm is giving away a trip to Transylvania for two as the grand prize, and it's 5-night Halloween haunt. You'll notice we didn't say 2 round trips.
There we go. There we go. That was very specific.
It was. All right. This one, I'll get mad at you if you don't get.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm terrible at trivia.
Oh, here you go. This one's for you. In English, there's usually a long Latin word that means the same as the shorter German word that we all know and use. So if you want to be a smarty pants, what's the highfalutin word for a werewolf?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
It's there. It's the
pressure is on.
Yeah.
Somebody in
I'm
our
terrible
chat.
at trivia.
Somebody in our chat.
It's like a lichen. No. Wait.
By now,
No?
our chat should be yelling at you. What are they saying?
Not yet.
No, not
I'm
yet.
sure they'll be catching up shortly. And for some reason,
Yeah,
I'm drawing a
lichen.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're
lichen
close.
is Kenzie says lichen. That's all they can be. AJ lycanthrope, Hendel lycanthrope,
AJ
lichen.
lichen. Yeah, so lycanthrope. But we're not responsible for Wolfman Jack's reactions if you accuse him of lycanthropic manifestations. He's one sensitive creature of the night, and he might take you back to his lair at Knott's Berry Farm and follow you till next Halloween. We got one more. You guys ready?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. This one. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, this one, the answer is gnarly. I'm going to butcher the answer. All right. So Knott's Berry Farm has built a special maze or labyrinth, the 10 chilling chambers for Halloween. Where was the first labyrinth? Who built it? Who was its most famous challenger? What dread beast did he encounter there? And how did he make his getaway?
Goodness.
So the Minotaur's part of it, right?
What? How did you know that?
Oh.
I think you did. Yeah. Well,
I struggled to like him, but I knew the Minotaur.
Yeah. But this is going out to media. So back in the day, Parks and Cons would have gotten this. So the answer is, okay, you didn't think they'd all be easy, did you? Daedalus built the labyrinth for King Minos of Crete about 2000 BC. Daedalus also invented the airplane, but his son Icarus died testing it. His wax-attached wings melted away when he flew too near the sun. The dread beast was the Minotaur, half man, half bull. And Theseus of Athens was the handsome young man who was too dumb to be scared, like a Peloponnesian little Abner.
Yeah.
That joke does not
It doesn't
translate to 2020. But he was smart enough to unravel a ball of thread behind him when he entered the labyrinth.
Yes.
So that is our 10 Knott's Scary Farm trivia questions from 1977.
1977. That's incredible that they put that out at that time. And I wonder what really people were supposed to do with it. I mean, obviously it went out and it was just, I guess maybe it was just a fun diversion, but it's...
Well, they didn't have like Twitter or Instagram to like post the trivia questions. So I guess
I think it would be
articles.
probably like a small, like maybe a smaller newspaper, little area, like as far as maybe one of their, a little extra column for next to the comics or something like that back in the day.
That's something.
All right. Are we ready to wrap this up a little bit? So I do have a couple of quick things. People might have seen earlier today that on Facebook, my buddy Dave is re-releasing Season of Screams, the first full-length documentary on Knott's Scary Farm. And so, so that's out there. I think he mentioned in there that this will be out on YouTube, and it is a part of a charity, which I think is great. And so, I worked on Season of Screams. We've certainly talked about it over a couple of times over the past several weeks. It's come up, and it was fun to work as an associate producer on it. I mean, I was working Knott's Scary Farm at the time, so I remember there'd be days like where we would be like doing interviews with people like on a Saturday or Sunday morning, and everybody we'd have to leave like in the afternoon to hurry up and go get, to our call time right at Knott's and all of that stuff. But this was a different time. This was a different thing. The only people that were doing stuff like that really on a big level was really Theme Park Adventure with Rick West, what he was doing, and really helping to kind of pioneer that type of thing. But this was this full length type of documentary that was really uncovering a lot of this information. This way before my book or anything like that. And so that's out there for folks to enjoy and give to the charity and all of that stuff, because I think it's a really good cause that is to help Scott Broad's wife for lupus, the foundation, and Scott was a great friend. He worked as a producer on it, and a lot of the old timer talent, all the monsters, and a lot of the employees that have been around for quite some time will certainly remember Scott and Dave and Season of Screams. And it was sold at the park. I mean, there was full on booths and everything just for Season of Screams. And I have one small little story that was a fun memory that I have of it. Was right behind where the Haunt Museum was. Those buildings continued before it was all ripped out for Pony Express. And I just remember it was the old candle shop, and they had turned that into like a Season of Screams store with like all these monitors, and you could buy the DVDs and all of that stuff. And I just remember I was my early version of Rage and kind of just lurking around there. And I remember seeing a couple of kids that were like trying to put their like money together to try to like get all their quarters. And how much money do you have? You got $1? I've got like 50 cents. They're putting all their money together to get this DVD. And so I was kind of lurking around them, kind of messing with them. And then they asked me, they're like, are you in this? And I went like, because my character didn't ever talk. So I was just like this. They're like, should we get it? And I gave them a thumbs up. And they're all like, yeah, let's get it. So they all got their money together to get this. And so you could only hope that maybe at least one of those kids maybe fell in love with Not Scary Farm a little bit, the way that so many of us have. But that leads us into our final trivia question for our live chat folks. So now that Season of Screams is going to be out there, but that's great for everybody to enjoy, but not everyone has an original copy of the DVD still in its shrink wrap. And so before Sean and Carmel, before you guys freak out, you are getting one of these. But this is also along with a Not Scary Farm sticker, the one that started it all. And so for anybody that would like an original copy, brand new, still in the shrink wrap of Season of Screams, then you got to take care of this first task here. The first person in our live chat to answer this trivia question will win this prize. So here we go. What is the name of the artist who drew the cool wall map that I've referenced throughout our Walk in the Park series? I've mentioned his name pretty every single episode of Walk in the Park. And so the first person to get that right, this prize is yours. And again, super fans, Sean and Carmel will also be getting one of these DVDs.
Oh, thank you very much. Real quick, a couple comments while people are catching up there in the chat about Season of Screams. Adam Walsh loves Season of Screams. I watch it a couple times a year. AJ, Season of Screams was hugely influential to me. So glad new generations can see it. Hendel said he believes he bought his copy at Haunt. Grimwood Hollow said, so glad Dave is releasing that because my buddy borrowed it and never gave it back. Aaron said, correct. I remember seeing it outside when it was at Knott's Camp Snoopy. It was too scared to enter at that point. I was too young. And Martian Girl 88, I had to get my copy of Season of Screams on eBay. Good luck, everyone.
And Aaron has
so our first one chiming in. Go ahead.
Yeah, Aaron said Bob Barnes, question mark.
Wrong.
For those of you listening, Ted's shaking his head. It's a no.
No.
What happens if we don't get an answer?
Then I'll think about it. We'll figure out another way to
we'll give them another
to send this off.
Couple seconds here to see if somebody chimes in with it.
Aaron.
Go ahead.
Aaron had a trivia question for you, Ted, but I'm not totally sure I understand it correctly but it says maybe he knows this, but name the location of a haunt maze outside of Buena Park and even outside of California from 1994 to 1997. Am I misreading that?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of a ton of haunted attractions outside of Knott's in that era, so I don't really know off the top of my head.
I'm not sure if you're referring to a specific one or not.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to see
House to Van.
House to Van said Bob Bates, and then
Correct.
BB Hunter said Bob
and
Bates.
He barely beat out the BB Hunter, who would have won a second time. So congratulations, Drew. House to Van.
Yes, and
win.
so just message me at Ultimate Haunt on Instagram and just let me know that you are the first place winner for Season of Screams, and I will send that out to you. You got to give me your address and all that stuff, and we'll be good to go.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's one of the things doing these walk in the parks and all the stuff. And I know, like, obviously you're presenting pictures and you have things written down and stuff too, but like trivia has never been the way my brain works. Like I've never been good with, any of these things that I don't know. It's just not. So I'm always amazed at when people can just pull things like, again, doing something like with a Jonathan Green or Eric Linksweiler, where they're like, well, just over here, this, and this. And you're like, oh, okay. That's, something. Obviously for you, it's just, it's all right in there. So congrats to everybody that was able to pull in out of their memory one of the answers tonight to win. And thank you again, Ted, for coming up with the trivia questions and the giveaways and all of that.
So Handel,
go ahead.
I was just
Handel
clarified Aaron's question. Aaron was talking about a haunt maze that was exported briefly to the Mall of America. And then Aaron said, yes, the maze was at Knott's Camp Snoopy at the Mall of America. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't know
that's
what
cool.
maze is.
Yeah. I don't know either. Yeah, that's cool. Hey, but before we wrap it up, I do want to say there was a couple quick things I wanted to say. Is that okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Of course.
No, just real quick. I mean, and this is really for everybody that's kind of taken the time to listen to these things and really kind of tune in. I know we've kind of mentioned some of these things, but I think it is worth repeating that originally this was supposed to be like an escape for all of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a way to kind of just hang out and just get together and talk about this stuff. And it started as sort of this distraction. And I think it's really kind of been interesting that theme parks, by their very nature, are escapes from reality. And so in a sense, this show over the past 10 weeks has kind of served as a similar purpose, I think, and foundation to which of which that Parks and Cons kind of stands on. I mean, this is what Parks and Cons, the reason you guys exist is because of all of these theme parks and conventions that you guys cover. And I think your focus has been so much on escapism, but I think it's exactly what you guys have been providing to all of us. So we thank you for that, if you think about it. And then, the last 3 weeks, we virtually have walked through Ghost Town during Scary Farm. And I know we've mentioned it before, but I think it's worth saying again that, and this isn't necessarily meant for like fans that are listening, as much more for like maybe industry folks that kind of maybe come across any of this stuff. I mean, if you're working any sort of seasonal event at any type of theme park in any kind of capacity, the information that we have shared in Walk in the Parks is your roots. It doesn't matter if you're at Universal or at Six Flags or Busch Gardens or whatever. This all traces back to Not Scary Farm. And so I think that was something that we really wanted to try to do, is hopefully somebody along the way has been able to gain a little bit of extra haunt history knowledge that that they can use, because it certainly not only fascinates me, but it has worked as a huge foundation for everything that I work on for all of these different events nowadays. But in addition to this, and this is just kind of changing gears just for a quick second, you guys have all gotten to know me a little bit more through these different episodes. And, I've shared some of my favorite attractions and shows, the Scary Farm, but I let you a little bit in behind the scenes and a little bit behind the curtain for some of my favorite highlights and personal moments, and a couple of examples as to what made me tick working as a character, not only as a monster, but also as an author, historian, and now working on the creative for a lot of this type of stuff. So hopefully maybe there's at least one person out there that has tuned into some of these things, that has gotten some information that might have been helpful. Because when I first started going to Not Scary Farm, the monsters never broke character. And so I didn't talk to any of them for years. They wouldn't have even talked to me. So this was way before the internet and the monsters having their cute little, fan pages and all that stuff. So I know a lot of mystique has been sort of lost over the years because of that. But hopefully some of this information that I've shared has been like insightful and hopefully wasn't, and hopefully I tried to avoid being kind of convoluted, or I wanted to make sure there wasn't any sort of outside interference that was like any sort of inflated ego type of thing or anything like that. It was this shared information that could help folks that are maybe looking to try to do this one day. And last, but most importantly though, I would need to thank Sean and Carmel, because we've all gotten to know you guys a little bit more, if you think about it too. And I mean, this is historic information that we've shared, doing these walk in the parks, especially. Those photos, a lot of them have never been publicized before. So, for Scary Farm fans that are tuning into this stuff, you guys know that this is a big deal. And that is in large part to Sean and Carmel for hosting all of this and facilitating, especially even this last episode of poor Carmel freaking out, getting this thing up online. And she was not freaking out. She kept her cool way better than I would have. I would have said, you know what, forget it. We're going to cancel
I didn't know which part was actually going to show up on YouTube, so I was trying to keep a calm face and not curse or anything. So. No,
you did great. And so as our world sort of, starts to kind of creak back open, we've got hopefully some extra knowledge about some Not Scary Farm history and how fun it is and how worth it is to go to see other home haunts like that we saw like in Santa Clarita and stuff. But please, if you see any of us at any of these events, please come say hi to us, because now hopefully we're not mean or weird or anything like that. And we're weird. We're all weird though, right? But we want to be friends, and we want to get to know everybody the best that we can. So with that, I want to leave everyone, as we kind of wrap everything up with this hope that maybe in the future, the next time we record these types of things, it could actually be on site at one of these locations, and we can share some stories and do some things and make more memories, because we've certainly created several in the last 10 weeks, but now some on-site memories for the future.
Yes, and that is really exciting. I mean, it's really exciting to think about doing that. It's exciting to think about at some point us getting out and experiencing something that you've worked on again, whether it's, a new or the next version of Origins, or as it returns, or other things. It's always exciting to see what you're doing as well. And so for us, I mean, yeah, one of the things when it was time to make a decision of what to do, we thought, okay, let's try to work on some different skills, this being one of them. And it's just really super exciting to think that we have 10 episodes of you talking about Halloween, about Scary Farm, about home haunts, about, a walk in the park and all of that. So we do appreciate the team up here, and it has been a lot of fun, and I look forward to more team ups.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative of all the knowledge that you've shared and all the work you put into putting together the photos and stuff, because it's incredible information. Then getting them directly from you, who has such a passion for all those things. It's a really cool and unique way. And for us to be the ones interacting with you. I mean, obviously we're relaying the chat and stuff, but I do really appreciate, you taking the time, and that, we were willing to, commit to this time with us and stuff, and that we, were able to do this together and collaborate in this way, because it was all a lot of fun and it was an escape. And, for this hour and a half each week, we were able to, set other stuff aside and just focus on what was going on, hoping the internet didn't cut out, focusing on hoping the screen sharings were okay, and that whole thing. So thank you very, very much. And there's lots of thank yous in the chat.
Yeah, there's so many thank yous in the chat. We won't go through and read all of them out loud, but we'll make sure Ted can see those as well on his end. But thank all of you guys. Thank all of you for being so kind tonight with all the nice comments. There's been so many really, really, really just amazing and nice compliments and things like that in the chat. And I think, though, the most pervasive tone is just exactly what you said, Ted. Literally the first time that you text about, like, hey, what are some ideas do, is the idea of that it was an escape and that it was something really needed during these times, because as things are, things have obviously changed in the world since we started them, and they still are, things to come ahead and see where everything goes from here. It's not like we're back to normal times, but things were incredibly scary in a very different way than Halloween Haunt when all this started and stuff. And, it was a very, very dark times. And so it was nice that we all could hang out week to week, not just the three of us, but again, everybody in the chat as well. And we look forward to seeing you guys, as Ted said, hopefully in the fog, hopefully at home haunts and places like that, if not sooner, in the daytime as well. But obviously, I think everybody in this chat likes hanging out at night. So we thank all of you. One last time, Ted, again, thank you so much for your time. If people want to follow along with things in the interim here, do you want to tell them where they might be able to find you?
Yeah, you can just follow me on Instagram through Ultimate Haunt, or just Ted Doherty on Facebook. But Ultimate Haunt on Instagram, I'll try to keep things updated as they are released and stuff like that for the future.
Yeah, and there's lots of great, if you've not followed Ted on Instagram, there's lots of great pictures there that you could check out just from over the years that you've posted there, Ted. That's its own kind of neat archive that you have there. So we will go ahead and wrap up this show and wrap up this season of...
Those of you in the chat, like the video, please, and subscribe to the channel. As we get back to doing more stuff, hopefully things open up. We'll be putting more of our usual videos, which is more on site and in the moment type of thing. So like and subscribe, please.
Yep. All right. Thank you all for tuning in, everybody, for being here tonight. And in the audio version, if you want to check out, again, any of these videos, there is a full playlist of 10 episodes that will be there all the way through haunt season and far beyond. As we wrap up, if you've not already done so, please consider leaving us reviews wherever it is you find the podcast. Also, remember, you can follow along with us on social media at Parks and Cons on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. Lots of Scary Farm videos there, lots of haunt videos all across all sorts of places in California and beyond. Wrapping up this season of Time Travel with Ted. Until next time, we'll see you in line somewhere.
Night, guys. Night, Ted.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, guys.
See you in the fog. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right.